Hello, thank you for joining us today. My name is Karen and welcome to the East Lothian Property Market Update. I work as part of the marketing team and I'm joined by Ash today, who's also from ESPC. She'll be giving us a East Lothian Property Market Update to kick us off. And I'm also joined by Cheryl from Gilson Gray, who will be answering the Q&A today. If you have any
Hi.
questions when we go through the event, please just pop them in the little Q&A box at the bottom of the screen. And we'll do our best to try and answer them before the event finishes today. But we have got your pre-submitted questions, so hopefully we've covered everything. But if not, like I say, just pop a wee note in there and we'll try to get round to it. So before we start, let's go ahead and get an update from Ash, please.
Hi everyone, thanks so much Karen. Hopefully you're having a lovely Thursday so far, almost the weekend, we're almost there. As Karen said, I'm just going to give you a little bit of an update on East Lothian and how the market's been performing. I'll talk you through some stats and this covers off the last quarter. So we are looking at July to September. So I think it's safe to say in general, I'm sure Cheryl will agree with me here, I think you've had so much interest in properties in East Lothian recently, so I think it's a really good time if you are thinking about selling. There's been a lot of competition and competitiveness for properties across, all the standard metrics that we look at. When we look at things like time to sell, percentage against home report valuation, but it's really just highlighting really strong buyer demand in this area. So I thought I'd run you through some figures. Don't worry if you don't get all of them. We will send this out. I know that Karen will point you towards them afterwards because it's a lot to take in, but I'll talk you through some of them at the moment. So first of all, when we have a look at the average selling price of property in East Lothian, it's been increasing steadily over the last couple of years, but it now stands at £290,000. So it's proven to be a really popular area with buyers. And I think a lot of people are looking to try and, when I say escape, get out of the city centre and move to places that might have gardens and a little bit bigger space there. And that's what we are seeing across the general board at ESPC. So the average selling price is actually up by 5% year on year. So if we look at that compared to 2019, it is at 5%. And we're seeing an increase of 20% on properties that are actually selling year on year as well. So again, just really highlighting that buyer demand. When we look at how fast properties in East Lothian are selling, so they're selling really quickly, they're flying off the shelf. The median days to under offer, so from when it first goes onto the market to when it goes through to under offer, is 12 days for the last quarter, which is really, really quick. And when we compare that again back to last year, that is 21 days faster. So they are going pretty quick. In terms of how much properties are achieving over home report, and again, I think Cheryl will talk you through this, every area, every street is very vastly different. So please just speak to your solicitor about that one. But on average, when we look at it for East Lothian, the last quarter has been sitting at 111% above home report valuation. So that's 11% over the home report valuation. And 54% of those properties that are being listed with us through ESPC are actually going to a closing date, which again just shows how popular properties have been and how much interest we are seeing across the board in that area. So yeah, I guess it's safe to say all the figures are just pointing to really strong buyer demand, and that is great news for sellers, a little bit more competitive for buyers, but don't be put off by these figures. As I say, they're all different across the board for the area. The strong demand's actually been driven by lower volume properties that are coming onto the market as well. So what we're seeing is because there's fewer properties, it's just a lot more competitive. So we saw 35% less listings than we did year on year. So for the same time frame last year, it's down 35%. When we then compare that to 2019, it was also down by 13%. So we just are seeing a little bit of a shortage of properties that are driving up that demand there. When we look at specific areas, we can see Musselburgh, so the highest volume of sales with 1 and 2 bed flats, and also 2 and 3 bed houses being particularly popular. We also saw 2 bed houses in Trinent and 3-bed houses in Dunbar being very, very popular as well. So as I said, what I would do is, if you want to find out a little bit more information on these stats, we have our house price report online or espc.com, but speak to your solicitor. Again, I'm sure Cheryl can talk you through anything, but all of the areas are so vastly different. This is just averages and it's across 3 months. So it can change throughout the year, but to find out what's happening here and now, you're best speaking to your solicitor or your agent. So yeah, just to let you know as well, we have properties that come onto ESBC 3 days before they go to other portals. So try and get signed up to our match and mail service. And that means that you can try and get in really quickly before anyone else sees them on other portals. But yeah, I will pass you back to Karen for now. But if you have any questions at all on those stats, just let us know and we can help you out there.
Perfect, thank you. And just to echo what Ash said, don't worry if you've not taken a note of all those figures. There's a lot to digest there. We will send information in an email after this webinar to help you. And if you have any questions off the back of that, please just email marketing@espc.com and we can pass you over to the right person and help you get as much information as possible. So let's start with the Q&A, which Cheryl will be helping me with. And like I said, if you have any other questions or want us to expand on anything, just pop it in the Q&A box and we can try and get round to it at the end if we have time. So Cheryl, the first question for you.
Hi there.
Are there affordable house stays for first-time buyers in East Lothian, and what areas would you recommend?
Okay. There are still affordable houses for first-time buyers in East Lothian, but you have to look quite carefully because the market is so buoyant and we've seen so much activity with all properties in East Lothian over the last year, as Ash has confirmed, that you really have to direct your efforts to certain areas. Tranent, Musselburgh, Preston Pans, these are all areas where, you know, the properties offered give good value for money for first-time buyers without paying through the roof. I'm not saying necessarily that doesn't mean to say there'll be a competitive situation when you're offering, but as Karen was saying as well, you know, you need to just get in to see your solicitor, phone them as soon as you've seen a property, so you can pounce and act as quickly as possible. And you just never know, an early offer in might just be exactly what the seller's wanting. They may not want to have the hassle of having troops of folk in and out looking at their house. So do speak to your solicitor about it. If it does go to competition, again, we have experience of, you know, depending on notes of interest, what they're likely to go, you know, what you're likely to have to offer in a closing date situation, and we can give you that advice in advance, so you can go way off and maybe speak to your granny about whether or not she might want to help you pay a wee bit more over the odds to actually secure your first home. But we can guide you through the whole process to make things a little bit easier, because it is tough for first-time buyers. It really, really is tough. But to get a bolt hold in East Lothian would be a great achievement for any of you out there. Okay.
Thank you. And the next question, is now a good time to sell?
Yes, it is undoubtedly a good time to sell. Generally, what we say to clients in normal years, and this is not a normal year, that you would be expecting to have the market tail off towards Christmas, but that's not the case, because we are suffering, as Ash is saying, from a housing stock shortage and demand being high. So of course, this is just going to increase your prices if you are a seller. And so therefore it's a super time to sell. You're likely to get a good price, but you've also got to ask yourself, why are you selling? Are you selling to buy? In which case, that's a bit of a conundrum if you're wanting to stay in East Lothian. But if you're selling just to achieve some profit and move to another area, or you're selling a rented property for whatever reason you think, it's an absolutely excellent time to sell, and you really need to speak to estate agents to see about getting the property on the market. I would probably say just as soon as possible, in case there's any slight seasonal slowdown towards Christmas. But certainly good time to sell now.
Perfect. And this is one from an attendee.
Okay.
I'm interested in buying a property to rent out. Is East Lothian a good place to do this?
Absolutely, the rental demand in East Lothian is considerably high at the moment because, again, we're suffering from lack of rental stock. So if you as a purchaser are thinking to buy to either holiday let or rent out on a long-term basis, there's extreme demand for you being able to do this, and therefore you'll be able to probably achieve fairly high rents and yields for doing that. Obviously, there is the difficulty of acquiring a property to be able to rent it out because of all the reasons we've stated before. But I wouldn't give up. I would keep going, and you just have to speak to your surveyor or your home report surveyor and your solicitor just to make sure that whatever you do offer for a property, it's going to make sense for you. And if you are perhaps having to offer a little bit more over the home report than you would want, then you've really got to be thinking about keeping the property for at least a 5 to 10 year period, just to make sure you can recoup any extra money that you've paid and it doesn't affect your rental yield. But there is strong demand for holiday homes, golfing, corporate rents as well, and also the long-term tenants are looking for properties in East Lothian too.
Thank you. Are flats in East Lothian selling well?
I mean, generally, the property market in East Lothian is generally very good. The property that sells the best is a family-sized property with garden. This whole notion of having a little bit of extra space in the countryside, maybe close to the sea or the hills. But the flats are selling well as well, probably not so much as the family size accommodation, but they do still sell well. There aren't as many flats available in East Lothian, so it's sometimes difficult to find. You'll find flats in Dunbar and North Berwick, and there are some purpose-built flats in Preston Pans as well. The North Berwick flatted market is just pricing itself out the market in itself, but there are flats and they are selling well.
Brilliant, thank you. And this is a bit more of a tricky one. How is the East Lothian market going to perform for the rest of 2021?
Well, I kind of slightly answered that, I think, probably with other answers to the previous questions, that I really do consider that the market will remain buoyant for the rest of the year. There may be a slight seasonal slowdown in December, just as everybody's getting ready for Christmas. That generally happens. Sometimes it may not. People may think, oh, that's the time I'll start looking then, because no one else will be looking. So we may actually find it is still quite busy. But there may be a tailing off, but there's nothing to indicate that come 2022 that we're not going to just carry on as we've left off here, with the market being good. And we can't really see any signs of slowdown in the immediate future, unless something big were to happen to change everybody's perspective.
Brilliant. And how much over home report value should I expect to pay on a property?
The golden question, because nobody wants to pay too much. I know this. So, and this is why it's important, whenever I say to clients, go and have a look at a property, please phone me, and we will assess the level of competition and how long the property's been on the market, so we can then work out what we should be offering, because we don't want to offer anything over what we have to in the market. If the property has only been on the market a couple of days, then we'll have to pay a premium to convince the seller to take it off the market. If the property's been on the market for 2 weeks and nobody's interested, then it may be you could get it for just over home report value. But if the property's been on the market a week and it's closing in a couple of days' time, and there's more than, say, 5 notes of interest, then the likelihood is it's going to go for anything between 10 and 20% over home report value. And in certain pockets of East Lothian, it's an absolute guarantee. If you have, say, 5, 6 notes of interest for a closing date property in North Berwick, it will definitely go for even over the 20% home report value. So what we are actually finding is it's a little bit misleading. when agents are marketing their properties, because they have their asking price, and then they have the home report value, and then of course there's the price that's achieved. And generally the asking price, and traditionally always used to be, pitched slightly under the home report value. So we have to keep educating clients to say, well, actually it's not like that. When you look at an offers over price, what you've then got to do is look at the home report value, because that will be the base figure beyond which the seller will be looking for a price. And I have seen some agents try and adjust their asking over their offers over price to try and match up with home report value. So purchasers who aren't aware of this at least know what they're in for when they look at a property. They go and view the property, make arrangements, and of course if they then discover that the home report is higher than the asking price, they can be slightly confused. And this is particularly particularly relevant when we have clients coming up from England as well, because they don't understand the offers over versus home report versus what you have to pay. And sometimes it can take a few offers before they realise, aha, you solicitors at Gilson Gray, I think you know what you're talking about. So, but there's not a blanket rule. Obviously, Ash was mentioning generally what you have to pay, but in each individual case, it depends on street, location, particular area, and we can keep you right there. Okay.
Great, thank you. And do you consider the current demand and price surge in East Lothian as a bubble? And do you predict a pullback once the current wave of working from home buyers have moved in?
I don't consider it a bubble, because East Lothian has always been traditionally a very good market. We've always been regarded as being Edinburgh's sort of little sister, and we always would benefit from the trickle-out effect of good market prices in Edinburgh. And I think that will remain, whether or not we get back to business as if COVID had never happened. Because East Lothian also benefits from the ability to have an easy commute into Edinburgh if people do start going back to work. But certainly the thoughts in Gilson Gray are that once folk do go back to work, and they go back to work in their offices as they did before, if that is ever to happen, then that might be the trigger for the market slowing down. It might be the trigger, but it may not, because COVID has caused so many people to reconsider their lifestyle choices, and it may be that we're just we're with that for good, and it may very well be that lifestyle choices are that we want to live next to the beach, we want to live in the country, we want to live where we can be 2 steps away from seawater swimming. So it's a difficult one to predict, but I think you are in safe hands if you do manage and you're lucky enough to invest in a property in East Lothian.
Yeah, fab. And that's all our pre-submitted questions. We do have time for one more question. We've got one that I can pick out of the Q&A box. But if it's something that we need to do more research, and we can get back to you via email. So Cheryl, this viewer has an unusual property with an annex. Do you have any any advice for a pre-sale? Would it be better to incorporate the annex into the main house, or are annexes a desirable quirk that would assist in a sale?
I think annexes would be a desirable quirk for a sale. It would be interesting to know where this property is. But what I would probably say to the clients that the best way to market is to market on the basis that here we have the house plus the annex as it stands at the moment. This is what would be needed to be done to take the annex away. So you're giving the purchasers, if you like, full information to have the property as flexible as possible, and then that will command more interest to allow the sale to probably go very, very well. So you can have an either or situation. So you could market as it stands with the annex, or you can say in your particulars it would only involve the removal of X, Y, and Z for it to become one single property. That way you will double your interest in the property you're selling.
Great, perfect. And that's our question answer section. So if there is something that you guys want to follow up on or feel like you'd like more information, just send us an email at marketing@espc.com and we can pass you on to the relevant person. Thank you, of course, everyone for joining us today. A special thanks to Ash and Cheryl for being our panelists. You guys are fab. And do keep an eye out
Thank you.
for our next set of events. These will be getting published in the next few months and we'll be covering more topics like first time buyers and different locations. So we hope to see you then. Thanks everyone.
Thanks, guys. Bye.
Thanks so much.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.